Hi, I'm Lauren Grace, and welcome to the Afterlight. And I'm joined today by Becky Stanton. She is a soul-led mindset and divine energetics coach for ambitious, soulful female entrepreneurs. Her coaching and offers take you from stuck in your head to a deepening connection with your intuition, your truest self, and limitless possibilities. Yes, please. Creating more ease, balance, and fulfillment as you pursue your entrepreneurial visions. Becky is a rituals queen, qualified in NLP mindset coaching, hypnotherapy, emotional freedom tapping, Reiki, and breath work. She brings a soulful and holistic approach to mindset coaching and soulful activations to empower women on their business success journeys. Becky also guides clients with her soulful CEO approach to business, balancing the masculine with honest, energetic, and feminine business practices. It's time to throw out the rule book and expand soulfully. And Becky's joining me today. We're going to be talking about transforming your mindset, reclaiming your inner power, the power of ritual, co-creating with the universe so you can step into a life of abundance. Those are some pretty major topics, actually, to cover in one, and we have 55 minutes to cover it all. Hi, Becky. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for having me on. I can't wait to have this chat with you.
Yes, I think it's going to be fantastic. And it's funny because one of the things that I'm really passionate about in life is spirituality and business. And when the two of them can come together, for me, it's just like the ultimate dream. It's a happy marriage. So before we kind of kick into the conversation today, and we'll see how much business conversation we really get to, because I think that, at least for me, when you can be really clear spiritually, I think the business stuff really does sort of fall into place because you're in alignment. However, before we sort of go there, Becky, tell me a little bit about how your spiritual journey began. Have you always been on the path? Did something happen to you to kind of set you there? Dark night of the soul much, or anything of those along those lines?
Yeah. In a nutshell, it was Saturn return. It was definitely around that time, like around 28 years old. I would say before that wasn't necessarily spiritual, didn't have any spiritual leaders around me, wouldn't have used that language, but I very much had this mindset of everything happens for a reason. And I've always had this kind of flow energy of trusting and being like, okay, this crappy thing's happening, but I think it's happening for a reason. And one moment that really stands out in my corporate career was I must have said that in response to my manager, and my manager said, that's a very lazy way to live. Oh. If you think everything happens for a reason, that's really lazy thinking. And it really shook me. And that really made me question everything of being like, oh, I think I've been maybe flowing too much. Maybe I should be paying more attention. Maybe I should be more active. And that's when I started to get more into the hustle energy. And actually, I found myself working all the hours and really pushing and forcing to the point of the very beginnings of a burnout. Luckily, I had a very supportive manager at the time that kind of sent me away, gave me 3 weeks holiday. I went to Italy alone. And I think that was the beginning of me coming back home to myself and that journey of like, who am I? Like, you know, that beautiful question, who am I? What is this world? What am I here to do? I don't think it's working 14-hour days in an office and crying myself to sleep. And that really started the journey of self-development initially, and then finding manifestation and the practices and the rituals to the point that I was like, this is incredible. This is literally going back to not necessarily the words that everything is happening for a reason, but that energy, that vibe. And so from my late 20s, I've just been deepening and deepening, starting with more of the masculine manifestation, because obviously it works, of like kind of, I want this, I got this. And then be like, no, let's go deeper. And that's where my divine practices have definitely been flourishing, and my connection with source too.
Oh, that's so cool. There's this fabulous book called The Moses Code. Have you read it?
I haven't.
No.
Oh,
I think you would really like it. And I'm only bringing it up because there's one thing there's a part of the book. It's a lot about manifesting, but they kind of talk a lot about almost manifesting things. And then there's this point in the book where the author says, now you don't have to read anymore, but if you keep on reading, you will never be the same. And what it does is it actually encourages you to reach further than the tangible car or, you know, the things that we want to acquire. And it starts to ask you, what is it that you truly want? And for me, it's always been peace. You know, I feel like if I have peace, everything is just in divine perfection. And in that book, it was talking a lot about how when you can start to endeavor to have that, everything starts to fall into place underneath it. Yes, I just thought you would connect with that thought.
Yeah, thank you for the recommendation. And it's interestingly what I teach and how I guide people as well. I call it ego manifestation and divine manifestation. The ego is the surface level of the car, of the house. And many of us start there because that's the world we're in terms of things and capitalism, right?
Yes.
I want a Chanel handbag, so I'm going to manifest it.
Yeah.
That was definitely on my vision board back in the day because I came from a luxury fashion background. So like the Chanel handbag was the goal. And then it's like, once you get that thing, it's like, hasn't really hit the spot. What was behind that thing? You know, and for me, it's freedom. It was this financial freedom, this time freedom, this creative freedom that represented the Chanel handbag in my head. So yeah, such a beautiful recommendation. Thank you. I'll definitely read it.
Yeah, you'll love it. I read it in a whole day. It's just a small little book too, which is lovely.
Love that.
I want to go back for a minute because I thought you were talking about something that was really important in your story that was really, really interesting. It was going back to that manager who was really essentially a guide in disguise, who probably didn't realize that life isn't always meant to be a struggle or suffering or burning out, right? And isn't it so interesting how some people are still learning that that's not the way of doing? What do you think are some of the lessons that guide taught you that you're sort of using now? Because it seems to me that you know that message created this catalyst for you to go almost the polar opposite of your innate nature. But for you to go through that, you started to understand a little bit more about how going with the flow was your divine right, or was actually your connection to source.
Yeah, it was definitely a divine moment. I think in a few different ways, because I think even though that was like my way of being, this everything happens for a reason, I was definitely full of fear and restricting myself. And I feel that younger Becky definitely would use that as an excuse. Everything happens for a reason. I don't need to try. I don't need to go too deep.
Right.
So it was kind of this, there was something
meant to
within
work
me.
out.
Exactly. There was something within me that truly had this spiritual flow, but hadn't understood it and was abusing it as a reason and an excuse to play smaller. So I feel that this guide, I'm getting this body tingle, always get that tingle when it's alignment. I feel this guide I was meant to go through the near burnout. And of course, I had another guide that was able to save me from it and not actually fully go through it and send me away. But I was meant to go the complete opposite of the other extreme to see that this is definitely not the way I want to live. And if I can help others to not live this way as well through the coaching that I do now. But then it allowed me to come back home to myself. So I could still come back to this, you know, I get to flow. Things don't have to be challenging. We can go through the most challenging things in life, which personally in the last few years I have, and still find that peace within, still be connected to me, still feel that everything will support me and everyone for their highest good. But I needed to firstly go through the extreme of the opposite in order to then find the balance and the power within me with that energy, rather than it being a self-sabotage excuse of, oh, that person didn't reply, never mind. Because sometimes in the intuition it's like, no, I'm being guided to step up, right? I'm being guided
to be proactive, to ask more, to be more clear, to show them the benefit.
Exactly. So it's that balance of old Becky was giving her power away, saying life's happening to me, I'm just going to flow with it. This Becky, through those experiences and those guides, understands life is happening with me and through me, and I'm that vessel, I'm part of that process. So I'm going to tune in, pause, and see what my role is in it.
That's great. And life is happening for us as well, isn't it? Not, yeah. And I talk about it sometimes, but I loved Wayne Dyer's quote when he talks about how when we think we're doing, we're being done. And I just love that. One of the things that I personally struggle with, and I love to hear your take on it, because I know that our listener at home might be able to relate to it as well, is the masculine and feminine balance. And I think that it's really an interesting position to be in as spiritual professionals, especially in business, because you kind of have that masculine yang energy, which is a lot about the doing and the selling and the proactive and getting out there and making those calls and, you know, showing up and selling. And it's got even that energy, even I'm sure you can feel there's a difference in energy versus the creativity and like, I'm building the course and I'm channeling my inner guidance to make this amazing program. So how do you personally balance the masculine and feminine, and how do you also balance the masculine and the feminine in terms of the manifestation? Because it's not always about making the intention. It's also about knowing how you can receive what you are asking for. I'm taking notes, girl.
Yeah, and I feel it for many of us is the learning, right? And embodying our own way of doing it. And I feel like my history taught me that my comfortable place is in the feminine. So I was in a very masculine world, and many of us are, you know, outside of the spiritual bubble that we create. It's quite masculine out there. And I found myself just trying to mask and fit in with the masculine, which led to the near burnout, because that's not my go-to energy. So within my business, initially I rejected the masculines. There was a lot of healing for me because I was like, that doesn't work. I burn out. I'm going to flow. I'm going to be this feminine Becky. And then you realize, oh, well, actually, I'm not taking much action. I'm actually not being that strategic. I'm actually just kind of like waiting for things to happen. So for me in my business personally as well, it's been really finding that balance. And what it looks like for me now is a dance with everything. So it's not even seeing it as masculine and that's feminine. It's really seeing this dance in everything I do, that you get to have this blend of both. So for example, with selling, it's understanding that from an energetic perspective, and simplicity really works for my mind because I can naturally go to overcomplicating. So I have to really simplify it. And how I see and visualize it is I have this offer that I trust is a soul offer. You know, I feel like it's really grounded in supporting the higher good for everyone and for me. And there is a soul client that is ready to receive this. So selling is that invitation, right? So that's kind of this flow that I feel. So then the masculine and feminine energies are firstly around the energetics of trusting that the feminine is, if they're meant to work with me, they will. So there's no pressure, no rush. It's really my creative expression. How do I want to talk about it? How do I want to call them in? What is that like handout of this invitation? I'd love you to come into this world and support you where you're at. And then the masculine is almost what I feel like is more the human perspective of, and now what's my role in implementing this, right? How can I use my logical brain to kind of make a plan to follow through and use my energy to actually do. So my feminine always comes first in terms of that creativity, that download, that channeling, that simplicity. And then the masculine is then putting it together of like, okay, now this is the plan. And as we know from as spiritual business owners, a plan that can move, can flow through.
Yes.
Right. If it doesn't happen this way, I'm all good. That universe work through me, source, show me the way. But for my mind to focus and for my energy to know where it's going to go, this is the plan. This is the strategy. And then there's always learnings, always growth along the way.
Do you create sort of a intention where you may go, all right, I'm going to sit for 15, I'm going to sit for 5, I'm going to think about connecting to my ideal client, my soul client, and I'm going to put that offer out there on an energetic level. And then you may shift and go, all right, now I'm looking at building the tech and the funnels and the correct messaging to target them. Like, is it a conscious thing that you do?
Correct. Yeah, definitely. So I call it soulful selling. I believe that you've already sold to that soul client. You may just need to make them aware of it on a conscious level. Subconsciously, they're in. As soon as they're aware, their human's going to say yes and actually pay and make all the moves.
Yeah.
So it's all trusting energetically that person is destined to work with me. You don't need to fully understand who they are, where they are, what's happening. But if this is a soul offer that is for everyone's highest good, people are going to be in your offer. So then it's like, okay, I trust there are people, and you can feel into the energy of how abundant that energy is of people coming in. So then it's then tuning into what's my role? How am I going to support their human, their conscious level to physically see me and say yes?
Yeah.
And that's when it's creative around how you want to do that. But definitely it's a conscious process of tuning in first and then being like, give me the ideas, universe. How am I going to do this? Give me the how.
Yeah. And then it's also, like you said, it's coming back to something and offering something that you feel is in alignment. When you create something, if there's any doubt that this isn't a good investment, there's no alignment with your soul there. Like there's a misstep that needs to be managed. But, sounds to me like what you're saying is when you're in alignment, when you just know that I've got the goods here, then that creates that opportunity for you to be able to receive. Where do you think people get caught up with the receiving part? Is it that they're not in alignment? Can you be in alignment and feel comfortable about what it is you are offering, but have some kind of a block in terms of receiving? Is that a limited belief or a mindset issue that then needs to be adjusted if energetically you're on track?
Yeah.
In the way of, creating that soulful offer, I mean. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And I feel like I see things as our soul and our human. Again, the simplicity for my mind.
Yeah, I like it.
We have this soulful part of us that can have that energetic connection and have that knowing, have that oneness of I'm here with a mission right now. This is how I'm meant to be supporting people. Yeah. But our human, like I almost see that the soul is like this beautiful shining within, and then you have this layer of your human, and that's all the conditioning, the illusions, the limits, the things that we've just absorbed during our time here. And that can just be an energetic and physical block, so if we think around mind, body, energy, the levels that I work with, your mind can have limiting beliefs, limiting expectations, and all the illusions and stories. So around receiving, it could be, the big one for female entrepreneurs is I'm not enough, I'm not worthy of receiving. This just doesn't even necessarily make sense to them. It's just this ingrained belief that I'm not enough, I need to be more. Yeah. And so that can be a belief around money. We absorb so much of our money stories from our parents, our caregivers, however we were raised. We just absorb their story and these ancestral stories that have just been handed down. So there's so much that can limit from the mind. And then the body, it's how those beliefs are stored, like in the nervous system, right? So we have the responses that come, like my go-to one is freeze. I can go into this procrastination, like the deer in the headlights. So if I'm playing bigger, I have to be really aware of where am I procrastinating? Where am I going to watch reality TV, to avoid doing the thing? My human wants to protect me to play smaller. Yeah. And then we have the energy. We all have this energetic capacity, which is determined by our mind. Again, this illusion, this limit of how much we can handle, how much we can receive. So it's working on all three levels, really, of understanding of if you do have this alignment in an offer, it's checking in of what beliefs may trip me up, how's my body feeling, and also energetically, where have I capped myself at those upper limits. I've only ever received £5,000. Maybe it's how much you got in your corporate career. So anything more, I don't know what to do with it. It feels unsafe. I can't be trusted. Energetically, then you'll just notice that you're not going above 5K. So yeah, those three levels are the ones, because you can be as aligned soulfully, and then your human's like,
Exactly. So how do you undo some of that? What are some actions that you've taken or that you've worked with clients to assist them with all of that? I connect very much with the whole, I'm not enough, or I think many of us have that program deep
Mhm.
seated. It shows up in different ways. And we're like, let's get to the
Yeah.
root. Oh shit, I'm not enough.
There it is again.
Thought I dealt with that 20 years ago. Nope.
Yeah, definitely can resonate with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I see different stages in the healing. So for some clients, like for me, when I first started my journey, where you're almost becoming aware of the limits, it becomes a very mind process initially of like, what are those stories? What have I been believing? What is my identity? And that's where my journey began as an NLP mindset coach with hypnotherapy, because it's very much like, what are those stories? And we know that we can change our subconscious and our conscious mind, right? You
Yeah.
can teach an old dog new tricks. You
Yeah.
can change the mind. So it's very much working on the mind level. And so a lot of the work I do is around mindset coaching of like, what are those stories? It's not true. And then coming back to the soul. It's a very soul-led approach. And then in the body, it's very understanding our nervous system, and that's why I'm very passionate about breath work and like EFT tapping, because then we work on the beliefs that are also stored in the body. There's this belief that I'm not enough isn't just a thought. That thought actually creates these self-sabotaging behaviors in our body, that feeling, that tightness. I have it when I'm playing bigger, when I'm going for these big desires. I can feel it in my body of this just restricted energy. So breath work releases the energy, and also tapping can work with the mind and the meridian points in the body and the energy. And then energetically, it's around working on those things as well. But I believe Reiki is really powerful as well, and all of the rituals to just open up the receiving energy. And I see these different levels. So there's some people that start and they're like just aware of the limits. So they start to work on the mindset. And then for maybe like women like us who maybe have been doing a lot of healing, you still feel the stories coming up. And it's just this repeating energy. It's that old energy. Sometimes you're like, oh, I can feel it there, but it's not really there.
Yeah.
And it's a different spiritual journey and it's different spiritual healing, in my opinion, because it's more around coming back into the acceptance and the witness of it, being like, okay, there is a part of me that believes I'm not worthy. And I understand where that's come from. I've gone there many times. I understand that younger Becky or that past life or whatever it is. But you know what? I can witness it and still feel safe. And it's this new energy of being like, I can be with both energies, but be the witness to it and still pursue. And I'm not going to allow it to take over my body, take over my energy, because it actually is all an illusion. It's a story. And actually, I'm going to focus my energy on the story that, what if I am worthy and can receive abundantly and have fun and enjoy life and serve? Let's see what happens when that's my focus, while still witnessing this part of me, this wound that I'm not enough. I don't think there's ever a time where, well, maybe I might be proven wrong, who knows? But I don't believe there's ever a time where people fully stand up and say, I'm 100% worthy and don't have that part of me anymore. I feel it's just this perspective, this energy of how we treat it, how we see it, and how much energy we give it.
Beautiful. I want to ask you in a moment about the power of ritual. What are some of the rituals that you do? But before we get to that, I am curious to know how you become the observer. Do you have a technique that you do? I mean, you talked about a few different techniques there, but if you catch yourself, you're spiraling, is there something that you automatically go to? Is it the EFT? Is it the breath work?
They're more releasing for me. I feel as the witness, it is a sort of meditation. So a practice that I do with my clients and with myself is, for example, if you're feeling triggered, if you're feeling something in your body, there's this awareness of the human and the soul. So it's pausing, breathing, coming into your body and really somatically tuning in to what you feel in your body. And when you do that, like, for example, if I was feeling a heaviness in my chest, I would slow down, I would breathe, I would invite forward the feeling I'm feeling in my chest, and I'd be with it. I can also speak with it and I can understand it. But then you have this awareness of, I am not that thing in my body. There's a part of me, there's this soul, I'm getting those chills again. I'm this soulful self that can witness and be with and support the energy I'm feeling in my body. And the more you practice that, the more you realize, I am not that belief. I am not the energy. There's something deeper that I am. And then that's when you have this practice of, even when you get triggered, because it's human to be triggered, you know, there's going to be moments when you feel fear. You know, you can't be fearless. We have fear in our body, but it's your relationship with that energy and the fear that changes, because you can feel the fear, pause, invite it forward, be like, I witness you, I see you. What do I need to know? What are you trying to say to me? You know, it might be like, don't do it. It's not safe to do it. You're like, I hear you, I understand you, but we are safe. You get to move the energy. It's this beautiful relationship, and that comes with practice. And I have like meditations to support clients with that, because now I can just be on a walk, feel triggered, and like talk to myself and feel the energy. But it can be that simple, that you build that relationship with yourself.
One of the things that you were talking about, though, that is so important, that I want to reiterate again for our listener, is about being with it. Because I think that it's when I don't want to feel fear, I don't want to feel anxiety, I don't want to feel the heaviness on my chest. That's where we suffer, is when we want things to be other than where we are. And, you know, when you say just be with it, invite it forward, it sounds so casual and easy to do. And I think that our minds just try to make things a bit more complicated than they actually need to be.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a practice as well. So many of us have these beliefs around our emotions as well. You know, maybe as a child you were told, stop crying, you know, stop looking for attention, you know, all the things that we've affirmed of, like, I have so many clients where they feel it's not safe to feel, and actually it feels better for them in the short term just to slap a smile on and be like, everything's okay, it's all good, and they're desperate to cry or to be angry. So it's definitely that relationship with emotions, like you say, it's safe to feel whatever you're feeling. And then it's the practice of knowing that you don't have to stay in that energy flows through you, right? Because some people are like, okay, it's safe to cry, and then they feel they're stuck in that emotion. And it's almost knowing that you get to flow through it by emotion. Let's come back to soul.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. You froze there for a moment, but I think we got.
Oh, okay.
I think we got your gist. One of the things that you're bringing up in me as well that I wanted to share is, I know one of my friends, she's an amazing healer, Bernadette. She's got Healing Works. Shout out. If anyone wants her contact, let me know. But she was telling me, she was teaching me about how everything has a soul. You know, like the cells of our body have souls. Our anxiety has a soul. And what I hear from you is you're really embracing that, and you're honoring that feeling that's coming up, and you're saying, you know, I feel that and I'm going to honor it, and then it shall pass, you know. And yeah, I can see how it would be a difficult thing maybe initially to start doing, but once you start to do it, I mean, the power that would open up, wouldn't it, to just allow you to release what it is that's holding you captive sometimes, instead of shoving it down into the dark, which is what some of us do.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and it's a beautiful practice, because then the word control came up. It's not control, but you're always,
well, you are in power of it in a way, you know. You're not, it's not bigger than you, I guess you could say.
That's what's coming through. It's not necessarily that you can control the emotions, but you're in that power seat, right? That you can be with it, allow it. It's just like a child, right? Allow them to express what they need to express, and then they can communicate with you, you know. And so yeah, it's a really beautiful process, and I love the idea that it has a soul. And also how I teach around business, right? Our business is a soul. I think so many people take the identity that their business is you, right? That your business is a soul. So treat it like a soul, treat it like a friend.
And I had to close a business recently, and I was like, you know, I just didn't treat it properly. I didn't nurture it the way it needed to be nurtured. And, you know, I learned that I can't do everything well, and I have to sometimes pick. And that's what I ended up having to do. And when you can, I think, be graceful with yourself, compassionate with yourself, and learning the lessons as you go, I think it gives you that grace to honor where you're at. One thing that I wanted to share as well with you and our listener, just in case, are you familiar with Stuart Wilde's teachings?
No, I'm not.
He's extraordinary. Wilde, Wilde, and he passed in 2003. It's quite something when you discover someone. And for me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get him on the show no matter what. And then you look him up and he's died. You're thinking, oh no, I'm 10 years too late or something. But one of the things that he talked about, which I just found to be one of the most profound. So I downloaded off Audible. He's got a whole psychic series on there. He's an incredible author. And he was talking about the power of the heartbeat. And in it, he was saying, take your fingers and just feel your heartbeat. And I remember when I did that, I connected with my inner body, connected with my human body in a totally different way than I ever did before. It's as though we forget that the human body, the human vehicle, I mean, we know we need to exercise it and treat it well and feed it good foods and things like that. But there's this whole inner system that's happening and supporting us and taking us through life. And I just, that came to me when you were just talking a lot about noticing, to become the witness, noticing those things within yourself. And the power of the heartbeat it's unlike anything else, I think.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I feel the same around our breath. I feel that's why breath work was really calling me, because without our breath, without our heartbeat, our soul doesn't have that human vessel. And I've personally been through like some loss recently and some ill health. And I feel that really grounds you back into the humanness as well. I've spoken around like our human holds the limits, holds all the stories, but also the human part is why we're here. It's really being grateful and grounded with our body. It's just that vessel also can, attach a lot of energy that can sometimes slow down our journey, but there's so much to be grateful for and to feel connected. And presence is the word, right? Being present with where we are, how our body is, and honoring the vessel that we are.
Yes. And I think a big part about us being able to do that is engaging in ritual, engaging in those intentional moments where we go, I will sit with my breath. I will sit and feel my heartbeat. I will sit here in my human self and feel the things I need to feel. So what are some rituals that you use in your life? What's your definition of a ritual? Is it as simple as waking up every day and going to bed at the same time? Or is it a little bit more elaborate than that?
Yeah. For me, a ritual is around being present and intentional. So it's really being grounded in the moment and soulfully being in the moment in a way that you want to be. And so that's why I love the idea of rituals, because many of us are just running subconsciously, habits, doing things the way we've always done them.
Yeah.
And so rituals allow us to really pause, come into the moment with intention. And for me, when I started this journey, journaling was a very big ritual because I was very complicated in my mind. I hadn't really processed anything. There was all of this identity of who Becky was, and it didn't feel right. So journaling was a big ritual for me. And I had a morning practice that was very much around what's going on in my mind, what are these stories, what do I want to do today, and how can my mind support me? So I always recommend clients, if you are feeling that you're overthinking, overcomplicating, journaling is really powerful. And something that turned into for me was also voice memoing, because some days you just don't want to journal. And for me, when I'm out in nature, I've got a dog on a dog walk, I can feel the expression. I can feel that I feel present. I feel surrounded by nature. And I feel that's when I really want to process what's going on in my mind. So it's not always, you don't always need to record it. Sometimes it's the intention of recording. So you feel that you're speaking to someone. Sometimes I do just speak to myself out loud, like this crazy dog lady walking through the woods, talking to myself. But really it's around processing what's going on. So I'm feeling, I'm thinking, I've been noticing, and really just expressing it. And that can happen on the page, which is powerful, putting pen to paper and seeing it written, but also a voice memo of just being like, I need to express this, I need to say it. So that's a really powerful one to get out of our heads and
I
really
also
understand
think, sorry to cut you off, people,
that.
they get worried about putting things on paper. Some people don't live in environments where they can leave things like that hanging around. Some people just don't want to articulate it in that way. And so I love the voice memo or the just talking out loud, which I think gives you an escape, really, where you can just say it and let it be free from you, because that's what it's really about, isn't it? It's about how can you free this from you to create that space.
Exactly. Yeah. And a ritual that I recommend for people, like some days you do just feel like there's so much resistance in your mind, writing it down on a piece of paper and then burning it safely
Yeah.
is almost handing it back over to the universe, being like, this is how I've been feeling, but I'm letting it go now. And there's something releasing of seeing it burn, like in a sink, of being like, I hand over that energy now. I've expressed it. I'm choosing not to focus on it. And it just frees and cleanses your energy. So there's lots of things that I completely appreciate. Sometimes you don't want to have someone find your inner thoughts and your inner fears, and burning it's a beautiful way to hand it back.
I love how you're talking about how a lot of us are sort of on autopilot. And, it's funny because I go through periods where I'm really into a ritual like gratitude, or every day I come in and I do my card or something. And then sometimes I just get out of the habit, and then I go, oh, and maybe it's because that ritual's run its course and I need to redo it or look at it in a different way. Do you notice that there's a difference when you're doing a ritual, when you're being intentional versus when you're not? Do you notice that you're operating on a different level? Do you feel that it affects your emotions, your ability to be one with source? Does it show up for you in any way?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the pattern that I've noticed with myself is when things are good, I'm sometimes slow down on the ritual.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're like, why do I feel so crappy?
Right.
Why do I feel so like pent up? And so that was like a pattern that I really had to recognize. And for me, what I realized is I used to do like an hour in the morning, light my candle, have my oracle cards. I needed that in the moment. And some of you may feel that you need it now, this real intentional setting up the day or closing the day. And what I realize now is those rituals are almost embodied in me, because I've been practicing them for so many years now, that I can be doing the washing up, and I could be feeling connected with myself, tuning into my body and connecting with source. I can see maybe a bird outside and feel the gratitude for the bird in that moment. And I feel this is the power of ritual, that we start by consciously being present and tuning in. And of course, a practice creates a subconscious habit within us. And for me, it is then understanding that I can always be in ritual. As you've said, like everything can be a ritual. You can have a shower, your morning shower, and wash away your limits. See them go down the plug hole. Use water as this cleanse. So you don't need to physically be maybe meditating if that's your thing, and just knowing that you are working with your energetic and your human body. But what I try to do every day is something for my mind, something for my body, something for my energy. And right now, yoga feels like the thing that does all three in one, which feels really beautiful.
Yeah.
Time saver hack.
Yeah.
Yoga practice allows me to be present, come into my body, honor how I'm feeling, and also that physical movement and health and stretch, and then also feel one with source with the beautiful practice. So for me, that's what feels really juicy right now. And then everything else is just embodied practice. But that took me years to get there. So that's why rituals are powerful, that if you're on this journey to have the embodiment, it's using your masculine by consciously putting time in the diary to connect. That's where the masculine and the feminine dance, right? You being structured and organized allows you to actually be in the feminine and connect and channel. Yeah.
Totally.
So
And that's why I created my course, Powerful Productivity for the Spiritual Professional, because of that exact thing, because people are not always aware that they can actually create space to have whatever life that they want. They just need to know how to do it, make it a priority. When you're talking, it's so beautiful to hear you speak. And when you're speaking, you're really talking to me about, being one with the present, being one with the universe. And that puts you in the position of being able to co-create a wondrous life. So have you noticed that when you're in flow, everything is working for you? And if you sort of maybe get off the wrong bus stop, or all of a sudden things are a little bit clunky for you, do you notice that your co-creation with the universe changes at all? And how do you get back onto that realignment? Is it coming back to those 3 things, those 4 things that you need to do every day to really support yourself? Is it that easy to get back on track with co-creating?
A beautiful question. And I think there's like macro things that happen on the micro. Like a micro example is I was going to be a speaker around surrender in London, and I live about a couple of hours outside of London, and I just got on the wrong train going in the wrong direction. No idea why, can't explain it. Autopilot, I'm sure. And then I had this realization of, I'm about to go talk about surrender. And I've created this moment where I need to surrender.
Yeah.
Right. I need to embody it in order to talk about it. And it was just that beautiful awareness of like, even like old Becky would have been like, this is the worst thing ever. I'm going to be late. What am I going to do? Ringing everyone like, what do I do? And I just had this awareness of like, I'm heading in the wrong direction. Let's find the solution, but let's sit in this realization of how safe it feels. So there's those sorts of things where I've been able to build that safety within, that everything is happening for a reason, even getting on a train the wrong way. And then on the more macro level, I've had some big challenges in my life, and they maybe have taken me a little bit off course because they've been real human experiences, really big emotions like grief and loss. And so for me, it's been very much around presence. That's been the main ritual around that, because there are going to be times in our life as spiritual business owners, whether it's business or life, things are going to feel big and shocking, and you're not going to want to focus on business. There's going to be so much going on in your mind, in your body, and maybe it's a big healing process that you're going through. And for me, it was just taking off the pressure. And as you say, this oneness, this connection with source, of just being like, okay, I am meant to be going through this, however challenging it is on a physical level. And I don't know if this is a bit deep to talk around grief, but I had this really challenging dynamic where one part of me trusted that this person was soul and I can stay connected, but then my physical human part was like, but I'm going to miss that person. I don't know what to do. And as I explored it, of course, it's deepened my spirituality, my connection with myself, my connection with everything. But at that time, it really does take you off course when these things happen, because you're like having a big human experience, and I don't know how, I've never done this before. Yet there's a part of me saying, you're good, you're fine. You're going to get through this. So I think
higher awareness.
Exactly. And especially as a spiritual person, I wasn't necessarily my family surrounded by other spiritual people, and I felt quite alone in my thinking. And I think you can question of like, why am I not breathing like other people? Should I be more upset? Why am I not, do all of the thoughts, right? Of why am I different? Am I missing something? Am I actually bypassing? Right? It's all of those things. And the only answer I could find would be present with myself, tune in and trust what's coming through. And I think that happens along our journey in all those different levels.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I know that our listener connected, and I can feel your heart in that. So thank you. I wanted to share with you too that I read The Surrender Experiment. Have you read that book? Isn't it?
I've read that one.
I read it a couple times. Yeah. But I wanted to share with you because I'm interested in hearing what you think about this. So I was listening to a lot of Bob Proctor stuff one day, and I think I did 17 hours of Bob Proctor in like a week or something. And
Wow.
I learned from that training that relax is a synonym of surrender. And I always knew I had to surrender, and like I'm an Aries, so I'm bossy. I'm a leader, and I was, I've got a great idea all the time, right? It's annoying sometimes, I'm sure. But surrendering is not part of my innate nature, because I'm just like, let's just take the bull by the horns. Here we go, right? When I learned that relax was a synonym, I think I put two and two together, but Bob Proctor may have said it. Relax was a synonym of surrender. I understood surrender in a different way. I understood it in a way where I went, oh, I get it. I don't really know how to surrender here, but I know how I can just chill for a second, which brings that about.
Yeah, really beautiful.
One of the things that I think is really powerful as well for us to talk about is that idea of co-creating with the universe, and the idea of us being souls in a human body, and recognizing that we are not alone, and also our need to ask for help and support. And so I wanted to know a little bit about your experience with that. When you're co-creating with the universe, when you're dealing with the loss of someone, when you're dealing with these challenges that are happening, do you use your journaling? Do you talk out loud in the woods and ask the universe for those confirmations, those signs that help to deliver you wherever it is you need to go, whether it be to a new direction or to a new feeling, or just a way of being where you are and being able to handle it?
Yeah. So it started with journaling. That was really powerful. My most favorite started journaling. So I notice a lot of people, I want to journal, but I don't know how to start. I don't know what to say.
It's just
And
talking
the
about
most
this
powerful,
today.
yeah. And the most powerful one that I've connected with is Dear Universe, or Dear Source, or Dear Spirit Guide, because then you're opening up this portal to speak to that energy. Again, it's that intention of the ritual. And so for me, journaling, I still do it now. I tend to journal more when I'm really in my head. Otherwise, I do just express myself and speak all the time. So it'd be Dear Universe, and it might just be, say that I'm co-creating. So right now I'm pivoting my business a bit. So I'm very much connected with the universe and tapped in of like, guide me, because I'm feeling a bit lost, right? I'm not sure what the path is. It feels unknown. Source is guiding me down a route that I've never done before. I'm like, are you sure? Pulling out the cards, are like, oh, give me the answer I need.
I want, and also I need, there's a difference.
So I definitely tune in a lot. And I feel that the more you do, the more that I feel now that I can just tap into, whether it's spirit guide, source, universe, whoever it is, this energy within that can guide me. So I can ask questions of being like, I'm thinking about doing this. Is this the right path for me now? And I'll feel a yes, or I'll feel a not sure. It's almost as like you feel it in your body. Are you either feeling expansive or a restricted energy? So for me, nature is where I tap in instantly. It's almost like I can walk into, around trees, and instantly I feel tapped in. That's my ritual of, I do go to like walk my dog and get exercise, but really it's my meditation of like, right, source, I'm ready for my questions. So yeah, that works for me. Of it's almost what I've learned is, if I am a soul and I'm here for everyone's highest good, including mine, to grow, to expand, then I don't need to do it alone. I don't need all the pressure on my shoulders. I don't need to look at what other people are doing. I don't need to be like, oh, she's successful doing that, maybe that excites me. It's like, source, show me, guide me. Right? If I'm really meant to be doing this and I'm in this divine place, then let's co-create, let's do it together. And I feel that's where the powers come, because I've definitely created offers in the past out of a should, out of I thought it'd look good. And they're not successful. My energy is not really behind it, and sources isn't either, because it's like, Becky, let's do this other thing. Hello. I'm trying to guide you here. So yeah, it's very much, and it feels sometimes for people that are new to this, it can feel more uncertain. Because I'm sure you'd love to be like, this is the offer, go with this. This is the way to be successful.
Yeah, but it's funny because sometimes we have to go through those things to know. I mean, for me, I got made redundant in COVID and it freed me, to actually do what I came here to do, because I would have been stuck in corporate. And to cut a long story short, I had two businesses. I had the Afterlight going on, and then I had a business going on, and I was really struggling to keep them separate because I knew authentically that I am a spiritual woman who loves business, and I needed to combine the two. And I was teaching time management to entrepreneurs, and then blah, 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 had to do all these things. 3 years later, I've been able to come full circle. Now I'm teaching time management. Now I'm not afraid to say that I'm a medium and I am also a business mentor, and putting them together into one beautiful package. Whereas it took me a long, long time. I mean, not counting the 3 years. I took 5 years off spirituality as well. So there's a lot of things in my story that I had to go through those times to be able to take me to where I am now, which is where I feel most in alignment. Yeah. So I know it's not about me, but it's just exactly what you're talking about, I think.
And I do find, I don't know whether you see this with your clients as well, that people's past always come into their purpose, right? And there's parts of my past where I'm like, I'm going to reject that. I don't want to do that. I worked in HR, so I was like, I don't like people. I'd had enough of people. All the naughty people. I was like, no, I don't like it. And what I find with clients as well is that there's so many things in your past that are actually coming into the purpose and the mission. And you've just beautifully described it there, that actually it was just around what the anchor was, and it was the spiritual side of business for you. Yeah. And I think for many people, there's no wasted time, essentially, is the message. It's all happening.
Yeah. And it's timing, isn't it? And you were going to say that for you thought it was what?
For my journey. So for my past, there's so many, I think, where I rejected the masculine for so long because I was afraid of it, because it had nearly burnt me out.
Yeah.
That was my biggest lesson from my past, of actually I get to be a balanced entrepreneur, because feminine alone isn't successful. It gives you the ideas, but then you're not implementing them. You're not actually showing up in the way. And so for me, my career was very much around, I was very successful when I was in the masculine. I just didn't have the feminine to balance it. And so for me now, it's almost like taking those learnings, and we all have them. And obviously I work with people, so I got over it.
Yes, but it's also a balance too. Like maybe you're in the position where you don't have to all the time if you don't want to, or you don't feel that you're going to serve at the high level. One of the things that I thought was interesting for myself, I remember I was batch creating some social content, and I was doing it for my business, and then I would change shirts and do it for my spiritual stuff, right? Because I was maintaining these two separate personas, basically. And I remember looking at myself, and I could see that the light in my eyes was different when I was talking about spirituality than business. And it was a really interesting visual for myself. So I don't know whether or not that's a technique that our listener wants to try, or if you've ever done anything like it, where you can almost see yourself. For me, it was really interesting because I always thought that I was passionate about both subjects at the same kind of level. But there was like that heart that came out, or that soul that came out of the spiritual stuff, where I went, oh, right. And I had that visual representation of knowing that this needed to take precedent over the other stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful to hear. And I definitely feel that with different tasks in my business. I don't know if anyone resonates with that. And I feel I had to learn early on that because my energy is dominantly feminine, I don't need to do all the masculine things. And when I
Delegate them.
started to outsource and get the right support, I then free up my energy to focus on what I like. And what I'm going through now with this pivot in my business is also how I want to serve. And that light in my eyes is what I'm tuning into, you know, and that expansive in my body. I'm really noticing, how do I love to show up? How do I love to serve? And I'm noticing it's more like one to many, and creating these rituals and bundles and pathways for people, and then supporting them where they're at. Because I don't know whether you feel this as well, but sometimes in one-to-one, it's almost, I don't believe in forcing the healing. And I feel like the power is in the present moment. So if I can create resources for people to tap into when they're ready, when it's the right moment, that literally lights my eyes up. So yeah, that's what I'm going through at the moment, and really tuning in. Like you say, it's a physical response to feel into, of like, what actually lights me up and what actually drains my energy and fills me with dread. Admin.
Yep. 100,000,000%. One of the things too, for myself, shameless plug, but my online course about time management, I will teach you how to delegate and automate and all that, by the way, just on a side note. Because when we are in business and we are focusing on the things that light us up, and like you said, outsource the other stuff, it frees us up to actually make more revenue, because we're doing the things that we're in alignment to do, and not some of the techie stuff that, you know, the funnely stuff that, you know, maybe other people can do better for us, for example. But I love the one to many. I think it's a good use of time management, which I'm all about. And I don't know if you connect to this as well, but one of the things that I wanted to do, and one of the reasons why I prioritize building passive income in the course and stuff, is because I wanted to ensure that I was always attracting people that I could serve at a high level, because I wanted to serve them and not because I needed to pay my bills. And so for me, it's really important that I have an offer that is completely in alignment and will change people's lives. That's an obvious thing. And when that's, you know, as that does its thing, it frees me up then to also do what I came to do without any of those masculine, financial, I guess, attachments to the transaction. I mean, obviously there's a transaction, a financial adjustment, but it's not because I need that revenue necessarily.
Beautiful. Yeah. And it comes back into that, what I call the soul client and soul offer. Come back to that when you're selling, of like, universe, source has guided me to create this for this soul that needs it. Come back to that simplicity, that I'm here to serve, and I've done it and I've created it in a way that I love to serve. You know, and so there's no resistance there. And then it's just understanding, and the energetic exchange is money on this earth. That's it. And money allows me to then flow it to other things that I love to purchase and love to enjoy and support other businesses. It's this beautiful like connection of energy, isn't it? But yeah, I also understand on that human level of needing money. You know, I feel like we've all probably been in that energy too. And it's almost then just coming back, that's not going to serve you. That's really going to restrict your energy. So it's the same way you're going to show up, but tune into this pathway, this flow of energy, and just being open to receive, because you're still going to be showing up doing the same things. The energy is just different, and you're going to receive more.
Yeah. And money is spiritual, because when we have money, we spend it and other people on their services and their courses and those products, and that empowers other people to grow their businesses and hire other people and go, you know, and it goes on and on and on and on. So it's the coolest thing ever, really.
It is. And it comes back to the desire, right? For you, peace, me, freedom. Money also supports that energy. And once you have that foundation, you're just gonna receive, open up, and then you just get to share even more love and abundance.
And I'm here for it, so bring it on.
Me
universe
too. Thank you, universe.
Becky, thank you so much. What an awesome chat. I know it's super early where you are. I want to thank you for making the time to be with me today. You've imparted so many lovely tips and tricks and new ways of looking at the world and our business, which is what this podcast is all about. I'm getting shivers as I talk to you. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you felt called to speak on today?
The only thing that came up, and is it okay to swear on your podcast?
Yes. You can
Is it
swear.
okay? Okay. So something that came through for me recently was the fuck it era.
Yeah,
And I
I saw
feel
on your
that
website.
really, yeah. And I feel that I just got called to share that energy of like the playing bigger energy is saying fuck it, the spiritual fuck it, not fuck it, I don't care, but the fuck it, let's see what happens when I play.
Yeah,
So
I'm
that
gonna
just
feel the fear and I'm gonna fucking do it anyway.
yeah, it's definitely that of like, fuck it, what's
Yeah.
the worst that can happen? Fuck it,
Yeah.
let's universe, show me how good it gets to be. And so I'm really in that energy and I'm supporting people in that energy. And I felt just came through of like, fuck it.
Yeah, but I like that because it also creates a lightheartedness around it, you know? And I think that for me, I sometimes really can get serious about stuff instead of going, who cares about that? You know, why is
Yeah.
that a big deal? Why am I allowing that to affect me when I got other shit to do? You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And this is playfulness, which is a creative
Playfulness.
energy, right? If
Exactly.
you're selling something, fuck it, I'm being guided to go live. Let's go live. Fuck it. Let's see what happens. Let's see who's there. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm being guided to put this application in. Fuck it. Let's put the energy in and let's show the universe that I'm serious. Fuck it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
It's this beautiful
Yeah.
energy that encourages you to go beyond the fear and actually do the things. And it's really fun.
It is fun. And even when you're saying, I almost feel like you want to go, you know what? Fuck it.
Fuck it.
And you like jump in anyway. Here we go.
Yeah. Go
Yes.
for it.
It is a fun visual and it does make it like fun. It does make it lighthearted. And, you know, the universe will conspire with us when we're on that level, that high vibe level, which is here we are, we're ready. Let's do it. Show us a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Becky, for being here. I will put a link to everything in the show notes as well for our listener at home. And I look forward to our next conversation. I'm sure we will catch up again. Thank you.
Thank you.